Assalamu alaikum students, welcome back to another video. Today we will be solving Cambridge IGCSE Physics paper 4 variant 42 of February March 2021. Question 1. Figure 1.1 shows a piece of glass of thickness 2 cm and 0.15 meters squared. The density of the glass is 2.6 into 10 to the power 3 kilograms per meter cube. Calculate the weight of the piece of glass. So in order to calculate the weight, first we'll have to calculate the mass using the formula density is equals to mass upon volume. To density and volume we are given, volume would become the thickness times the area. So please note here that the thickness is in centimeters. We need to convert this into meters first. So 2 centimeters would become 0.02 meters times 0.15 meters squared. So just use your calculator. In mass you will get as 7.8, and in order to convert the mass into weight we just have to multiply it by the gravitational field strength, which is 10, so it would give you 78 newtons. The piece of glass shown in figure 1.1 is used as the vertical viewing window of an aquarium. The atmospheric pressure outside the aquarium is 1 into 10 to the power 5 pascals. The average pressure on the inside of the aquarium window is 1.3 in 10 to the power 5 pascals. Calculate the resultant force acting on the window due to these pressures and state the direction in which it acts. So you have an aquarium. The force that is being applied on the aquarium from the outside is the atmospheric pressure, and from inside it is this much. So the resultant pressure we can calculate by subtracting these two values. So 1.3 into 10 to the power 5 minus the atmospheric pressure, so you will get 3000. This is your pressure. So using the formula, pressure is equals to force over area, we can calculate the resultant force. So this would be not 3000, this would be 30,000. Area we know is this much, 0.15. So just use your calculator to do the calculations. Your answer will come out to be 4500 newtons, and the direction of the force would be outwards, from inside of the aquarium to the outside, so outward, because the inside pressure is greater than the outside pressure, which is the atmospheric pressure. Part C. Figure 1.2 shows a vacuum pump connected to the top of a vertical tube with its lower end immersed in a tank of liquid. The pump reduces the pressure of the column to 0, and the pressure at point X is 9.6 into 10 to the power 4 pascals. Calculate the density of the liquid. So this is fairly simple. Once again we will use the formula for pressure, which is rho GH. Rho is the density, G is the gravitational field strength, and H is the height. So the pressure at point X they have given us 9.6 10 to the power 4. We have to calculate the density. The gravitational field strength is 10. Height is 12. So using your calculator, your density will come out to be 800 kilograms per meter cube. Question 2. State what is meant by the moment of a force about a point. So the moment of the force is the turning effect with respect to that point. Turning effect about that point. Figure 2.1 shows a large crane on a construction site lifting a block of mass 14,000 kilograms. Calculate the moment about A due to the 14,000 kilogram block suspended from B. So the moment is calculated by force into distance. Distance is the perpendicular distance from the pivot. So it is pivoted at A at this point. Perpendicular distance is 20 meters. So force would be the weight times the distance, which is 20. So your moment will come out to be 2.8 times 10 to the power 6 Newton meter. Speed is a scalar quantity and velocity is a vector quantity. State the difference between a scalar quantity and a vector quantity. So scalar quantity only has magnitude, whereas a vector quantity both has a magnitude and a direction. Write down one other scalar quantity and one other vector quantity. So here you can write any scalar quantity that you want. So scalar can be so first vector quantity can be force, scalar quantity can be time. Part C. Figure 2.2 shows two forces acting on an object. Draw a scale diagram to determine the resultant force acting on the object. So you need to use a scale diagram. So first you need to define what scale you are using. So you can use 1 centimeter for every 5 newtons. Let's write it a bit lower. 1 centimeter for 5 newtons. So we need to use the scale diagram. So the 20 newtons would be of length 4 centimeters and 30 newtons would be for 6 centimeters. This would be slightly longer. This would be an angle of 60 degrees. So your resultant would be this line here. This would be your resultant force. So using this your scale, you need to measure the length of this and then multiply it by 5 in order to get the resultant force. It should be somewhere around 40 and 47 newtons. So scale 1 centimeter to 5 newtons. Magnitude of resultant force should be between 40 and 47, and the direction of the resultant relative to direction of 20 newton force. So relative to this force, you can see that it is anti-clockwise from the 20 newton force, or you can even measure this angle here and write the value of that angle. So anti-clockwise from 20 newtons. Question 3. A power station burns waste materials from farm crops to generate electricity. State and explain whether this process is renewable. So yes, this process is renewable. And this is because the crops that the crops that are being used to get the waste material from, they can always be regrown. So they won't get depleted. They can always be regrown. The power station uses some of its waste thermal energy to heat water for houses in a nearby town. State one problem of using waste energy in this way if the power station is far from the town. So obviously if the power station is far from the town, the thermal energy of the water, it will be lost during the way, since it is far away. So now when the heat is being transported, some heat will be lost due to the long distance. Suggest a way of reducing this problem. So you can insulate the pipes through which you are transferring the heat energy so that the least amount of heat is lost. State 2 environmental consequences of burning coal to generate electricity. So obviously burning a fossil fuel always produces greenhouse gases. And it is also non-renewable. Coal is a non-renewable source. Question 4. In terms of the momentum of molecules, explain how the gas exerts pressure on the walls of its containers. So you will begin with that the molecules they strike the wall of the container, and as they strike there is a change in momentum, and we know that force is related to momentum. Force is basically the rate of change of momentum. So when there is a change in momentum, a force is exerted, and that force exerts a pressure, since pressure is force over area. So when there is a change in force, a pressure is exerted. A fixed mass of gas of volume V1 is at a pressure P1. It is compressed to a volume V2. Complete the equation for the final pressure P2 of the gas when the gas is compressed at constant temperature. So we have this formula P1 V1 is equals to P2 V2. So here you just have to make P2 the subject. So it would be P1 V1 over V2. State and explain how the final pressure compares with P2 when the temperature of the gas increases during compression. So we know that temperature and pressure are directly related, directly proportional. So when the temperature increases, the pressure will also increase. So the final pressure compared with P2 will be greater, and this is because when temperature increases, the particles have greater energy, greater kinetic energy, which means they travel with greater speed, and they collide with they strike the containers of the wall with stronger collisions, due to which greater pressure is exerted. Question 5. State the name of the reflection of a sound wave or ultrasound wave. So this reflection phenomenon is called echo. Figure 5.1 shows an ultrasound wave being used to scan an internal organ of a human body. The ultrasound wave has a frequency of 2 megahertz and passes through human tissue at a speed of 1500 meters per second. Calculate the wavelength of the ultrasound wave in human tissue. So we have the formula V is equals to F lambda. The speed is 1500, frequency is 2 megahertz, so mega means 10 to the power 6 is equals to the wavelength. So just use your calculator and your wavelength will be 7.5 10 to the power minus 4 meters. Figure 5.2 shows crest of a wave from a point source S approaching a straight barrier. On figure 5.2, indicate and label one wavelength. So one wavelength is with the distance between two waves. So this is one wavelength. On figure 5.2, draw three crests of the reflected wave from the barrier. So when the waves will reflect, it will be something like this. So you just have to make sure that the wavelength of the reflected waves is of the same length. That is one important factor. Question 6. Figure 6.1 is a full-scale diagram showing a converging lens, two principal focuses f1 and f2, and an object PO. On figure 6.1, draw two rays from point O of the object to determine the position of the image. Label the image IJ. Measure the length of the image. So we know that there are two rays. One passes through the top of the object through the focal length, and one passes through the center of the lens. So like this. So they will meet somewhere over here. This will be your image IJ. So you will use your scale to measure this length, which will be the length of the image, and this should be approximately somewhere around 2.4 to 3.6 centimeters. Ring 3 descriptions of the image. So we can see that just like the original object, this image is also inverted. So it is the same way up as the object. Both of them are inverted. It is also magnified. We can see that this is much larger than the object, so magnified, and it is also virtual. Figure 6.2 shows three rays of green light passing through glass blocks. Three rays of red light approach the glass blocks on the same path as the rays of green light. On figure 6.2, draw the paths of these rays of red light to the right of the glass blocks. Okay, so we know that red light has a greater wavelength as compared to green light, so it will diffract less than the green light. So with a smaller angle. So obviously the straight line will remain straight. There will be no change to this line. This will diffract slightly lesser, so like this, and similarly diffract lesser, so like this. So the red light will converge somewhere over here. Figure 7.1 shows a horizontal conducting wire XY between two opposite magnetic poles. Wire XY forms the circuit with an ammeter. Explain why the reading on the ammeter is 0 when the wire XY is not moving. So this is because when the wire is not moving, it is not cutting any magnetic field lines. The wire XY is moved and there is a deflection on the ammeter that indicates there is a current in the wire from X to Y. On table 7.1, tick one box to indicate the direction of the movement of the wire XY and explain your answer. Okay, so the magnetic field line is from north to south always. The flow of the current is perpendicular to the magnetic field line. So using our left hand rule, we can see that your thumb, it will indicate the direction of motion and it will be pointed upwards, which means the top of the page. So using left hand rule, perpendicular to each other. So your thumb indicates the direction of motion, your index finger indicates the direction of the magnetic field, and your middle finger indicates the direction of current. So whenever there are questions like this, you must also always use the Fleming's left hand rule. State what is observed on the ammeter when the wire XY is moved in the opposite direction. So when it is moved in the opposite direction, there will be a similar deflection on the ammeter but in the opposite direction. So opposite deflection but of the similar magnitude, and in the same direction as part B but at a greater speed. So due to greater speed there will be greater deflection. The magnitude of deflection would be greater as compared to B. Question 8. Define electromotive force. So electromotive force is the energy supplied by a source in driving a charge around a complete circuit. So energy supplied by and driving unit charge around circuit. So one complete revolution of the circuit. Figure 8.1 shows a source E of an EMF 60 volts in a circuit. The heater has a resistance of 22.5 ohms and the potential difference across it is 45 volts. Calculate the power of the heater. So power is VI. V is the potential difference across it, I is the current. So first we will have to calculate I using the formula V is equals to IR. V is 45, distance is 22.5, so current would be 2. I is 2. So 45 times 2 would give you 90 watts. Calculate the potential difference across resistor X. So if this has 45 volts, these two would get 15 volts, and we know that in a parallel combination the voltage is equally divided between the two. So both of them would get 15 volts. So X would get 15 volts. The current in the 10 ohm resistor, so once again we will use the formula V is equals to IR. V is 15, current we have to calculate, resistance of the 10 ohm resistor is 10, so current is 1.5 amperes. Question 9 is not part of your syllabus anymore, so you can skip it. On to question 10 and the last question for this paper. State the proton number, nucleon number and the value of the charge in an alpha particle. So an alpha particle is of this nature. It has 2 protons, the nucleon number is 4 and it has a positive 2 charge, plus 2. A nucleus of strontium 90 consists of 38 protons and 52 neutrons. Strontium is radioactive and decays by beta emission to an isotope of yttrium. The symbol for strontium is Sr and the symbol for yttrium is Y. Write down the nuclide equation of this decay. Okay, so a strontium atom is decaying. So on the left you will have a strontium atom. It is decaying into a yttrium. So the nucleon number will be the same, the proton number will be 1 greater, because we have a beta emission which has a -1 proton number. So this equation is balanced and it is correct. Part C. The half-life of radon 220 is 56 seconds. A sample of radon 220 is in a container. After 112 seconds, the mass of the radon is 9.2 milligrams. Calculate the mass of the original sample. So after basically 2 half-lives, the mass is 9.2. Okay, so this is the original, then after 1 half-life, and after 2 half-life. So after 2 half-life is 9.2. So multiply this by 2, you would get the mass at first half-life, which would be 18.4, and then multiply this by 2, you would get the half-life, the original value of the mass, which is 18.4 times 2, 36.8. Since we know that after each half-life the mass gets divided by 2, so in order to calculate the original mass, you can just multiply by 2 twice, and your answer is 36.8 milligrams. So that brings us to the end of our paper. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And like always, I will see you later.